Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Pradikacharya Statota Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Pradikacharya Statota Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance day Ki Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. So I have a question for you, all of you, all four of you. You know these songbooks have been in a closet for a few years now. I'm just wondering if you ever read the introduction. Have you ever read it? Have you ever read it? You maybe never read it. It's called A Glimpse into the Life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. So I'm going to read this. This is actually very nice. And if we have time, I'll read the selection from the Samadhi's book. Okay, so might as well record this. On this 5th day of September, the glorious appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, we're reading from the introduction to the Vaishnava songbook, entitled Songs of the Vaishnava Acharyas. Many of the songs in here are by him. And this was written by Achyutananda Prabhu. Thakur Bhaktivinoda led a life of incessant labor and activity for Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He effected such immense good in the world that his work is only to be compared with the unbounded works of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and the 6 Goswamis. It was the spiritual attempts and divine writings of this individual that turned the scale and led the intelligent and educated community to believe in the noble precepts and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. If you look back 180 years, and this was written 50 years ago, so more like 230 years, we cannot but be astonished to find how degraded was the condition of the Vaishnava faith that had its pure origin in the deep and majestic spiritual philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even vastly learned pundits could not fathom the super excellent precepts of Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. Yet, due to the incredulity born of the ignorance of uncultured men, the Vaishnava faith had been degraded and was considered a beggar's excuse for living at the expense of society. It was by sheer love for the Godhead that Thakur Bhaktivinoda expounded the deep philosophy which had remained concealed in the pages of the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, and Srimad Bhagavatam. By his action toward divine service, and also by his words, said in simple language to be easily understood by readers in general, he has given this philosophy to the world. It is his writings and his divine, unparalleled character that have helped to produce a class of educated and enlightened men who are now proud of their Vaishnava faith and of their acquisition of the spiritual knowledge of the pure and sublime philosophy of Krishna, on which the stern teachings of Sri Chaitanya are based. Though born in opulent circumstances on September 2nd, 1838, Thakur Bhaktivinoda, who was given the name Kedarnath Dutt. Now, Kedarnath is a name for Lord Shiva, right? I mean, the original Kedarnath was a Shiva. He had to meet many difficulties in his early life. His childhood was spent at his maternal grandfather's house at Birnagar, Ulagram, from where he came to Calcutta at the age of 13 after the death of his father. After he had completed his education, he was requested to be present at the time of his paternal grandfather's death. His grandfather, Raj Vallabha Dutt, had been a famous personality of Calcutta and had retired to a lonely place in Orissa to spend his last days as an ascetic. He could predict the future and knew when he would die, since he could commune with supernatural beings. Thakur Bhaktivinoda was present at the eventful time when that great soul passed away, and after receiving his grandfather's instructions, he visited all the major temples and ashrams of the state of Orissa. Bhaktivinoda Thakur then entered the educational service and introduced English education into the state of Orissa for the first time. He wrote a small book about all the ashrams of the state and mentioned an ashram which was on his ancestors' property. I have a small village named Choti Mangalpur in the country of Orissa, of which I am the proprietor, he wrote. In that village is a religious house which was granted by my predecessors to the holy men as a holding of rent-free land. The head of the institution entirely gave up entertaining such men as chanced to seek shelter on a rainy night. This came to my notice, and I administered a severe threat that his lands would be cruelly resumed. In other words, he would claim them and kick them off, if in the future complaints of inhospitality were brought to my knowledge. Close quote. Bhaktivinoda Thakur later took to government service and was transferred to Bengal. In one town, he gave a historic speech on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which attracted the attention of thousands. He made the world know what hidden treasures pervade every page of the Bhagavatam, which should be read by all persons having a philosophical turn of mind. He was transferred some years later to a town called Champaran. In this town, there was a Brahma Daitya living in a great banyan tree, and he was being worshipped by many degraded people. This is the famous Bishikishane, right? A Brahma Daitya is a type of ghost. One day, the father of a famous girl scholar came to Bhaktivinoda for alms, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur at once employed him in reading the Bhagavatam under the shade of the banyan tree, which was the abode of the ghost. So this was a different situation. After 1 month, the Bhagavatam was completed, and then and there the tree crashed to the ground, and the ghost was gone for good. Everyone was thankful for this act, except the few dishonest persons who were worshipping the ghost. Bhaktivinoda's next move was to Puri, Jagannath Puri. The government commissioner was much pleased to get him in his division, and he asked him to watch the affairs of the temple of Jagannath on behalf of the government. It was through Bhaktivinoda's exertions that many malpractices were checked, and the time for offering of food before the deity was regulated to its extreme punctuality. And how many offerings do they have a day? 64 offerings a day. They're always cooking and offering. What is that? Jan's hand is always wet. Washing to take prasadam or after taking prasadam. Thakur Bhaktivinoda was especially entrusted to quell the rise against the government of one Bishikishane, who declared himself to be an incarnation of Mahavishnu. During the course of his investigation, Thakur Bhaktivinoda found him to be a hoax and a culprit, and charged him with transgressing government injunctions. After his trial, the fellow was sentenced to imprisonment for 1.5 years, but he soon died in jail. Now, this is quite an amazing story. And I have it in the book, The Seventh Goswami, I think tells that in detail. It's a nice book. And some other writings. Yeah, he was claiming to be Mahavishnu, and he was threatening the British Raj. He was saying he was going to assassinate the king and everything, you know, that he had these mystic powers. And he did have some mystic powers. And he was also seducing the wives of some Brahmins and everything, and having his own rasa dance, and he was a rascal. So Bhaktivinoda first went there with a small group of soldiers, you know, and upbraided him until, you know, and he started bending his head in and outside of a fire without being burned, you know, showing his mystic power. So Bhaktivinoda came back with a bigger contingent and arrested him. And the trial went on, and Bhaktivinoda went. He was a magistrate, so he was a judge of this trial. And one day, the Bishop Goswami said, "Just see what disasters have befallen you at home." And he went home, and he found that one of his daughters couldn't speak or something, high fever and sick, you know, and. So his wife was freaking out, you know. His wife said, "Why didn't you give up this thing? Because we, you know, get all this disaster." And he had so many other children also. So Bhaktivinoda said, let him kill us all. We have to get rid of this guy, you know. So he went. And on the final day, Bhaktivinoda himself was ill. He couldn't walk. So they carried him in on the palanquin to give his final judgment. And he found him guilty and a sentence of some months, 6 months or something in jail, right? So they'd taken him off to jail, and one Englishman, the English knew something about the culture because it was a British Raj, you know. And they had heard that these yogis, they keep their energy in their hair, you know. And so he came up behind him and cut off his hair. His hair was huge. He went down to his waist, you know. And he got so weak, he fell down. He couldn't even walk anymore. And then, did he die in jail? I forget if it says what he died in jail, but that was the end of his power. So that was quite dramatic. I have a detailed story of it. All right, so after this trial, the fellow was sentenced to imprisonment for 1.5 years, but he soon died in jail. This man was really possessed of unnatural powers, but as they were the outcome of non-spiritual practices, he had to submit to the Thakur when the latter wanted him to do so. Bishop Goswami was held in dread by the common people, and everyone warned that now he doesn't have. There was a lot of people who were worshiping him, you know, because he had these powers, but some of them, they were also in dread. And so everyone warned Bhaktivinoda Thakura not to admonish him, even for the sake of justice, in view of the serious consequences that the yogi would inflict. But although the Thakur was not a man of ostentation and did not allow people to know his true qualities and spiritual strength, he easily cut down the demoniac power of the impostor. With the fall of Bishop Goswami, there was an impostor Balaram at another village, and there were also other so-called incarnations of God, but their plans were similarly frustrated. During his stay at Jagannath Puri, Thakur Bhaktivinoda devoted much of his time to the discussion of spiritual works and prepared notes on the Vedanta Sutras, which were published with the commentaries of Baladeva Vibhushan. So this was Lord Chaitanya did not write a commentary of Vedanta Sutra, which is usually one of the qualifications to have a sampradaya and everything, right? Because he felt the Bhagavatam was the perfect commentation. We didn't need another commentation. But then in Jaipur, there were some pundits, and they were attached to the temple there, and they were saying what this, you know, this Gaudiya Vaishnava thing is not bona fide because there's no commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So the most learned scholar at that time was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but he was getting older. And they asked him to write, but he said he didn't, and he gave the instruction to his prime disciple, Baladeva Vibhushan, to do it. Now the epithet, or the title, Vijabhushan, means he was very learned. He had the ornament of knowledge, is something that's given to it. And he's the main commentator on the Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada used when he wrote his Bhagavad Gita. In fact, you'll see at the beginning, it's dedicated to Baladeva Vijabhushan. So he went to Jaipur and he saw the situation. So he agreed, okay, I'll write a commentary. But he felt he had to get the blessings of Govinda. Famously, Rupa Goswami's Govinda took shelter there when the Muslims came and everything. So that temple is still there, very popular, very well visited. So he went to Govinda and he prayed and prayed and prayed, and then a garland fell down, right? Which is like a sign of blessing. he felt that as a blessing. So he named the commentary he wrote Govinda Bhasha, that he was the words of Govinda. He just was the stenographer. That's what he felt. He was so much. And that became, the Gaudiya Vaishnava commentary. I have it if you're interested to read it. Very interesting. So, during his stay at Jagannath-puri, Thakur Bhaktivinoda devoted much of his time to discussion of spiritual works and prepared notes on the Vedanta Sutras, which were published with the commentaries of Baladev Vijayabhushan. He also composed the Kalyana Kalpataru from the Vibhavari Shesha, from which Vibhavari Shesha, one selection, appears in this book. Now, this Vibhavari Shesha is a song to be sung around Mangala Artik time, and you find that in the temple, the Krishna Balaram temple. The arrangement is, because Prabhupada's Samadhi is right there, the original Samadhi where he's interred. And so I assume they're still doing this, that they have the Samsara prayers there. They sing that song, Gurvashrika. But then as soon as that's over, they walk the 150 feet or so to the temple itself and all go. And they sing this Vibhavari Shesha song. And it means, night is over. And now everyone should wake up, and now we sing the names of the Lord. And it's full of all names of Krishna. It's a very nice meditation this pastime. So he wrote that, Vibhavari Shesha. This may very truly be termed an immortal work, and it stands on the same level as the divine writings of Narottam Das Thakur. He's talking about Kalyana Kalparu, which is a songbbook. Now, Gitabali is another one of his songbooks, I think. And this book has many of his songs. So one is the Jayarada Madhava song, of course. In 1877, he left Puri on government service, and in 1881, he started a well-known spiritual journal called Sajjana Toshini, The Satisfaction of Pure Devotees. He also published the Sri Krishna Samhita, which revealed to the world the underlying philosophy explaining the spiritual existence of Krishna. This book opened the eyes of educated people to teach them their true relationship with God. It also attracted the admiration of many German scholars, for although the public regarded Krishna as a poetic creation of erotic nature, Srila Bhaktivinoda revealed Krishna as Parabrahman, the supreme transcendental person, the absolute being, on the basis of Vedic evidence. At the close of his stay at the village of Narayal, he visited Vrindavan. There he had to encounter a band of dacoits known as Kanjaras. These powerful bandits spread all over the roads surrounding the holy place and used to attack innocent pilgrims. Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought this news to the government, and after many months of struggle, extirpated the bandits from Vrindavan forever. From this time on, Thakur Bhaktivinoda preached extensively in large gatherings, explaining all the precepts of the Sankirtan of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. While staying at Barasat, Thakur Bhaktivinoda met the famous Bengali writer Bankim Chandra. This novelist and playwright had just finished writing a book on Krishna. And knowing Srila Bhaktivinoda to be an authority on topics of Krishna, he gave the manuscript to Bhaktivinoda Thakur to see. It was full of mundane Western-styled speculations and ideas, but after 4 days of discussion, Bhaktivinoda had the whole text revised by Bankim Chandra to accommodate the pure supramundane precepts of Lord Chaitanya. During his last year at Barasat, Bhaktivinoda was requested by a noted High Court judge to publish an authoritative edition of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, with the commentaries of Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as well as his own, Bhaktivinoda's translation. The preface, written by Bankim Chandra, expressed his gratitude to the Thakur for his endeavor, and when it was published, the copies were soon exhausted. Then Thakur Bhaktivinoda published a unique work entitled Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, the Nectarian Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which dealt with Lord Chaitanya's theistic philosophy and the philosophies of the Western speculators. This book defeats every other philosophy point for point and establishes the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya as supreme. In 1885, he started a society named Sri Vishwa Vaishnav Raj Sabha, which means the Vishwa is the universe, Vaishnav, Raj Sabha means the king of gatherings of Vaishnavas all over the universe, for the propagation of pure Hari Bhakti. Many eminent citizens of Calcutta joined the society, and several committees were organized with assigned duties. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so anxious to see the land of Lord Chaitanya that he applied many times for a transfer to any town nearby. Upon not receiving the desired transfer, he formally submitted his resignation from public service, but he was refused. He was so valuable in the British Raj. Then, to his great rejoicing, he obtained a transfer to Krishnanagar, 25 miles from Navadvip, Mayapur. Once stationed at a place near Navadvip, he did not let a single free moment pass without visiting the land of Navadvip. He at once made inquiries about the exact whereabouts of the different places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. He soon discovered that the then city of Navadvip was a town of only 100 years standing. So he was curious to locate the actual birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. He was convinced that the town of Navadvip was not the authentic location, and he at once commenced a vigorous inquiry to find the truth of the matter. But he could not easily escape from the people who tried to make him believe that the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya was at that town. Then, after careful inquiry, he was told that the site was lost under the shifting course of the Ganges. Not satisfied with that explanation, he himself set out to discover the Yoga Pit, birthplace. After great difficulties, he came to know of a place which was being adored by many realized souls as the true birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and which was then in the possession of the Muslims. Local inquiry and corroborative evidence from ancient maps dating from the latter part of the 18th century, the 1700s, which showed the name Sri Mayapur, at last helped him discover the real site of the birthplace. Now, it doesn't mention Jagannath Das Babaji here, but he was a Shiksha guru for Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Bhaktivinoda Thakura was actually formally initiated by Vipini Vihari Goswami. But later there was kind of a falling out because Vipin Vihari was not believing that the Yoga Pit was where Bhaktivinoda found it. There was some discussion there. But anyway, his real, his Shiksha guru was Jagannath Das Babaji. And that's why we have him up there. That's it. So he was like over 100 years old by this time. And he had a disciple who was carrying him around in a basket, So they took him to this place, which is right near our present temple. It's like a 5-minute walk. And he saw there was all these tulsis growing around there and everything. And when he went there, he jumped out of his basket and started dancing in ecstasy. Because this is the place, this is the place, this is the place, the Yoga Pit. So let's see. So the maps and everything helped them at last discover the real site of the birthplace. The discovery led to the publishing of a valuable work called Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. Chapter 5 of that book has appeared in ISKCON's Bengali Back to Godhead magazine. The year 1895 was the most eventful year in the history of the Vaishnava world, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the prime mover of the events. It was in this year that he officially memorialized the birth site of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and brought its true identity and importance before the public eye. Thousands of visitors were present at a function held at the spot. Just after retiring from government service, Thakur Bhaktivinoda himself, in a spirit of perfect humility and with a view to giving a firm standing to the discovery, went from door to door to raise funds for a temple. In the Amrita Bazar Patrika newspaper on December 6, 1894, the following article appeared, quote, Babu Kedarnath Dutt, that's Bhaktivinoda, the distinguished deputy magistrate who has just retired from the service, is one of the most active members. Indeed, Babu Kedarnath Dutt has been deputed by his committee to raise the subscriptions, that's donations, in Calcutta and elsewhere, and is determined to go from house to house, if necessary, and beg a rupee from each Hindu gentleman for the noble purpose. If Babu Kedarnath Dutt sticks to his resolution of going around with a bag in hand, we hope that no Hindu gentleman whose house may be honored by the presence of such a devout bhakta as Babu Kedarnath will send him away without contributing his mite, however humble it may be, to the Gaur Vishnupriya Temple Fund. Close quote. Truly, Thakur Bhaktivinoda honored the houses of many persons for the fulfillment of the noble, objective he had undertaken. He went to persons to whom he would not have gone for any purpose but for his mission of Lord Chaitanya, and his efforts were not fruitless, since the sum collected contributed to the construction of a building on the holy site of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. Now you can go and visit that temple today when you go Navadvip Mayapur Parakram. The work of preaching the holy name was also in full swing, and it spread fast into the distant corners of the globe. Yes. The Gauranga Smadana Mangala Stotra, which, with a preface in English containing the life and precepts of Sri Chaitanya, came out from Bhaktivinoda's pen soon after the discovery of Lord Chaitanya's birthplace, and found its place in all the learned institutions of both hemispheres. Now I have that book, Gauranga Lila Smadana Mangala Stotra, as translated by Kushakrata, if you're interested. The more the names of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna were preached, the merrier was Thakur Bhaktivinoda. He thereafter made annotations of Sri Brahma Samhita and Sri Krishna Karnamrita, and gave to the world his immortal and precious works, Sri Harinama Chintamani and Bhajana Rahasya. He also edited, with commentary, Srimad Bhagavat Arka Marichi Mala, which contains all the most prominent shlokas of Bhagavatam pertaining to Vaishnava philosophy. His pen never tired, and it produced many other Vaishnava philosophical works. He would rise at 10 o'clock at night, after resting for only 2 hours or so, and write continuously till 4 in the morning, composing songs, essays, and books. Most of his works appeared in the Sajjana Toshini magazine. He was equally engaged in writing and preaching the holy name in many districts of Bengal. His personal appearances at villages had marvelous effects on the people. To maintain the center at Nadia, he built a house at Sri Godrumadweep, which is called Sri Svananda Sukada Kunj. Here in this abode, the preaching of Harinam continued in full swing. Now that's the place, Ramapati, across the river that we go. Yeah, you can still see that house. And he had a little hut nearby, near it for Gorgashore Gaspamaji. Right? There's a little bhajan kutta there for him. It was the beginning of the 20th century that he chose to live at Puri and build a house at the beachfront there. Many honest souls sought his blessings and readily obtained them when he accepted the renounced order of life by taking Babaji initiation from Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji in 1908. Though he was leading the life of a renounced soul, he could not avoid the men of all descriptions who constantly visited him. All of them received oceans of spiritual training, instructions, and blessings. In 1910, he shut himself up and remained in a perfect state of samadhi, or full concentration on the eternal pastimes of the Lord. In 1914, he passed on to the blissful realm of Goloka on the day which is observed as the disappearance day of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Here we quote a stanza written about the samadhi of Haridas Thakur, which Srila Bhaktivinoda wrote sometime in 1871 to explain what influence a Vaishnava carries in this world even after his departure. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still and sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. Srila Bhaktivinoda predicted, quote, soon there will appear a personality who will preach the holy name of Hari all over the world. Is this a Senapati quote about the head of the army? It is clearly understood that His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is that personality. I offer my prostrated obeisances first unto all the devotees that have surrendered unto His divine lotus feet, and next unto the devotees who will in the future take shelter of His lotus feet. And I then offer my humble obeisance unto His lotus feet again and again. May He bless this first translation attempt so that it may be accepted by Lord Shri Krishna, and may He engage me in the service of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya, and Radharani. So that's the end of Achyutananda's little wonderful biography of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There's so much more. There's an autobiographical letter that he wrote to his son Lalita Prasad, which is quite fascinating. How he had some Christian education, I think, as a child. And then there was a point where he was trying to find a Chaitanya Charitamrita to read. But because of all of the confusion and everything by the upper sampradayas, you've heard of the upper sampradayas, like the Prakrita Sahajiyas, they're the most famous. Prakrita Prakritasajiyas means materialistic so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya who take everything easily, meaning that they don't accept all the rules and regulations, the 4 regular principles, and they're always trying to get into the conjugal lila and imitating Krishna. So they became prominent in Bengal, and there were like listed at 12 of those. The bowels, we heard about the bowels. I'm not going to repeat Balaram's accidental pun, but anyway, they are great singers. In fact, I remember the bowels when I was living in Long Island. My parents would take me to Carnegie Hall, which is a famous place where they have dancing and music, you know, in Manhattan. And I never went to see them, but I remember they were advertising that these bowels, these singers from India were coming to perform in Carnegie Hall, of all places. So, but they were still not strict followers of Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. And the philosophy had become eclipsed, as explained at the beginning here, and there's more details in that, because of all of these upper sampradayas, you know, presenting themselves as followers of Lord Chaitanya. So, and you know, there's kind of a big lacuna or a void, you know, in this introduction about his giving birth to Bhaktivinoda Thakura, to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who really carried on the mission of Bhaktivinoda Thakura and started the Gaudiya Math, which spread all over India. He had 64 maths, and of course he was Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, and inspired and empowered him to come to America and preach in English and do what we know he did. So that's a nice thing. I think that we have a little time, and if you will permit me, I'm going to read the entry from the Samadhis book. I'm sorry I didn't have anything be prepared, but we're doing the best we can here. I'll be sure to read who's giving class. Every day we give class, they put me in somewhere so I can. But these, and also just to reiterate, there have been several nice books written about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, form which is this seventh Goswami. I forget who gave him that who was it? Rupa. Yeah, he wrote the book, but who gave him the epithet seventh Goswami? It wasn't Rupa Vilas who made that up. It was somebody else who called him that. Because although he was a householder with 14 children, he was austere and strict, and he was following me, you know, perfectly and preaching perfectly. Okay, so if you give me just a second here. Okay, let's see what we find. Sri Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared in 1838 in a wealthy family in the Nadia district, West Bengal. He revealed that he is an eternal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his extraordinary preaching activities and prolific writing. Living as a Mahabhagavat Vaishnav, he stayed in the Grihastha ashram until the last few years of his life. Then he renounced everything, accepting Babaji initiation, and entered Samadhi, totally absorbed in the loving service of Gaur Gadadhar and Radha Madhava. And here's a quote from Srila Prabhupada. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a responsible government position as the district magistrate, high court judge, maintained a Krishna conscious family, and wrote almost 100 books on Krishna consciousness. At the same time, he served the Supreme Lord in so many ways. That is the beauty of his life. After a full day of government service, he would sleep 4 hours, get up at midnight, and write until morning. That was his daily program. Now, Srila Prabhupada actually followed that. He would get up in the middle of the night and write until morning. Thakur Bhaktivinoda took Vaishnav Diksha from Sri Vipina Vihari Goswami in the line of Janava Mata. Janava was Nityananda's wife. I think he had several wives, the most prominent wife. And she actually became the spiritual head after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya. And she was preaching. I don't know if was she accepting disciples too? I'm not sure. Afterwards, Bhaktivinoda received spiritual inspiration and direction from Srila Jagannath Das Babaji. Holding an exalted government post, vast erudition, and spiritual accomplishment never disturbed Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He remained prideless, always humble, friendly to all. Charity seekers at his home always felt left happy and satisfied. A well-wisher to everyone, he never kept grudges, even with opponents to his preaching. In fact, he never spoke a word that would hurt another's feelings. Quote, this is a quote from, I'm not sure. The Thakur was always courageous and acted for everyone's welfare. Keeping personal needs to a minimum, he led the simplest of lives, said one pundit. In the following entry from Sharanagati, Srila Bhaktivinoda, who had all pure divine qualities, takes the role of a conditioned soul to teach us how to advance in Krishna consciousness. Quote, you should always absorb your mind in attentively chanting Krishna's glories. By performing Krishna Kirtan, you'll gain mastery over the mind. Give up all false pride. Always think yourself to be worthless, destitute, lower, and more humble than the straw in the street. Practice forgiveness like the tree. Of course, this is Lord Krishna Chaitanya's teachings in the Shikshashtaka. Giving up all violence toward other living beings, you should maintain them. Throughout your life, you should never give anxiety to others, but do good to them, make them happy, and forget about your own happiness. Thus, when you become a pious, good soul, by possessing all good qualities, you should give up desires for fame and honor, and just make your heart humble. Knowing that Lord Sri Krishna lives within all living beings, you should respect and honor everyone at all times. You will attain virtue by being humble, merciful, respecting others, and renouncing desires for fame and honor. In such a state, you should sing the glories of the Supreme Lord. Weeping, Bhaktivinoda submits his prayer at the lotus feet of the Lord. O Lord, when will you give me such qualities as these? Always anxious to use every moment in loving service of Krishna, he followed a strict, austere daily schedule. Now this is his whole schedule. 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., right. 4 to 4:30, rest. So he had some sleep, so then he rests from 4 to 4:30. That's a half an hour. 4:30 to 7, chant japa, 2.5 hours of japa. 7 to 7:30, correspondence. 7:30 to 9:30, study the shastras. 9:30 to 10, bath, prasadam, half a liter of milk. That's about a pint. Fruit and 2 chapatis. 10 o'clock to 1 p.m., court duties. That's 3 hours. From 1 to 2, refresh at home. 2 to 5, more court duties, 3 hours. 5 to 7, translate Sanskrit Shastras into Bengali. 7 to 8, bath, prasadam, another half liter milk, rice, 2 chapatis. 8 to 10, rest, 2 hours. So then the summary of this, so he gets 3 hours of sleep a day. Summary, sleep 3 hours, write 8.5 hours, japa, study 4.5 hours, work 6 hours. Srinivasacharya praises the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, Nana Shastra Pachadanaika Nipano Sadharma Sangstapako, Lokanamitakadino. The 6 Goswamis deeply studied all the Shastras in order to establish eternal religious principles for the benefit of everyone. Similarly, Thakur Bhaktivinoda made unlimited preaching contributions to help humanity, and for this he's known as the 7th Goswami. Biographers list 3 major preaching achievements of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. 1, he wrote 100 authorized spiritual books. 2, he discovered the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya. 3, he introduced preaching innovations. Besides books in Bengali, Oriya, and English, he revived and explained Lord Chaitanya's message. Which revived and explained Lord Chaitanya's message. He wrote hundreds of poems and songs full of spiritual sentiments and shastric siddhanta. And this is a quote from, I don't know who it's from. His writings have made the sacred teachings of Lord Chaitanya fully available to every modern reader, and they are presented in a form which carries irresistible conviction and devotion, said a late disciple of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. So then there's a list of some of his books: Sri Krishna Samhita, Kalyana Kalpataru, which is songs, Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Sri Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, Jaiva Dharma, Sri Harinam Chintamani, Bhajana Rahasya, Gita Mala, Gitavali, these are the more songs, Sharanagati, and commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita are some of his works, literary works. The following quote comes from Thakur Bhaktivinoda's Gitavali. He who has failed to carefully worship the lotus feet of Sri Radhika, which are the abodes of all auspiciousness, He who has not taken shelter of the transcendental abode of Vrindavan, which is decorated with the lotus flower named Radha. He who in this life has not associated with the devotees of Srimati Radhika, who are full of wisdom and love for Radhika. How will such a person ever feel the bliss of bathing in the ocean of Lord Shyama Sundar's sublime mellows? Please understand this most attentively. Sri Radhika is the teacher of Madhurya Ras, mellows of conjugal love. Radha Madhava, Madhurya Prema, is meant to be discussed and meditated upon. He who cherishes the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani obtains the lotus feet of Madhava, Lord Madhava, which are priceless jewels. Without taking shelter of Radha's lotus feet, one can never meet Krishna. The Vedic scriptures declare that Krishna is the property of the maidservants of Sri Radha. Give up wives, sons, friends, wealth, followers, speculative knowledge, all materialistic actions. Just become absorbed in the sweetness of serving the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. This is Bhaktivinoda's solemn declaration. During the last 500 years, the original appearance place of Lord Chaitanya had vanished under the indomitable Ganges River. In 1888, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura revealed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Janmastan at the Yoga Peeth in Sridham, Mayapur. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, a famous Siddha saint and a Paramahamsa Rasika Vaishnav, confirmed the Thakura's discovery. This most auspicious event delighted the Gaudiya Vaishnavas from Gaur Mandala to Braj Bhumi. Bhaktivinoda established the worship of Lord Gauranga and Srimati Vishnupriya at the Yoga Peeth. So there's a temple there of them. In the mood of innovation, in 1896, he sent to universities around the world a book of slokas, Shri Gauranga Leela Smarana, which had a 47-page English introduction. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and precepts. This act rose from a keen desire to spread Lord Chaitanya's teachings to the Western countries. Bhaktivinoda Thakura made 3 predictions concerning a person and a phenomenon. A personality will soon appear, wrote Bhaktivinoda Thakura, and he will travel all over the world to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Naveen, did you hear that? Who is that person? Who is that person who came and spread the teachings all over the world? Yeah, that's it. His second prediction, very soon the chanting of Harinam Sankirtan will be spread all over the world. And then here's this famous quote, which is realized when you go to Mayapur and you see the Russians and the Chinese and the Spanish and the Americans, everyone's dancing. Oh, when will that day come when people from America, England, France, Germany, and Russia will take up kartals and mridangas and chant Hare Krishna in their towns? The third prediction, when will that day come when the fair-skinned foreigners will come to Sri Mayapur Dham and join with the Bengali Vaishnavas to chant Jai Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana? When will that day be? Srila Prabhupada said, it's spiritually significant that he himself, Prabhupada, appeared in 1896, the same year Bhaktivinoda Thakura sent his book overseas. The will of Lord Chaitanya, the desire of Bhaktivinoda Thakura, and the mercy of Srila Saraswati Thakur empowered Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to spread Sri Chaitanya's teachings and the chanting of Hare Krishna all over the world. Prabhupada fulfilled the Thakur's 3 predictions. Devoid of pride, full of humility, radiant with pure love for Radha Govinda, Srila Prabhupada gave all credit to the previous acharyas. We should take it, said Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura was the origin of the Krishna consciousness movement in its pure form. In 1896, just 100 years after Bhaktivinoda Thakura's 3rd prediction, excuse me, not 1896, in 1986, just 100 years after Bhaktivinoda Thakura's 3rd prediction, 3,000 fair-skinned devotees from America, England, France, Germany, Russia, and 50 other countries gathered at the ISKCON Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir in Sridhar, Mayapur. They joined 1,000 Bengali Vaishnavas to rock the universe by chanting Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Gaur Hari. Srila Sachinandana Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. In 1914, on the Tirobhav Titi, disappearance day of Shri Gadadhar Pandit, the incarnation of Radha, Thakur Bhaktivinoda entered the eternal pastimes of Gaur Gadadhar and Radha Madhava. That means he passed. In Godrumadvip, Navadvip, Shri Shri Gaur Gadadhar, the worshipable deities of Thakur Bhaktivinoda, await to bless any visitors to Svananda Sukhata Kunj. That's his house across a tributary there of the Ganges. What is it? Ramapati. What do we call that other river? What is it? Yeah. Jalangi. Okay. Await to bless any visitors to Svananda Sukada Kunj. In Radha Madhava's Nitya Braj Leela, Bhaktivinoda Thakura takes the form of Kamala Manjari to serve Srimati Radharani. His Pushpa Samadhi is in his Bhajan Kutir at Radhakund. So, that's all I can say about Bhaktivinoda Thakura. There's so much more to say, and we have so many wonderful books. And especially that letter to Lalit Prasad, that autobiography is very illuminating. So many struggles in his childhood. You know, his whole town that he came was devastated by cholera, and there was an epidemic there, and he went there, and you know, just helping his family to survive and everything at that point was amazing. But and it was this. The genuine Gaudiya Vaishnavas have been so much eclipsed that he could not find an edition of Chaitanya Charitamrita for years, right, to try to read it. And when he finally got it and he read that, that's when he took off and started preaching like anything, you know. But it was a real battle. The owls and the bowels and the Saki Bekis, you know, so many other Upper Sampradayas, you can read about them. So we every day we honor him, and to say especially, we should try to gather for his Pushpanjali at 11:50. Okay, that's all I have. Unfortunately, I wasn't super prepared, but still there's so much to read about him. While I was in Mangalarti, I was thinking, what am I going to do with this class? And then I remembered the introduction to the Bhakti song. By the way, there's a big pile of books in there, and many of his songs are in that song book, including Jai Radha Madhava.